Before we begin, I just want to say to keep this video at a more reasonable length, because this covers an entire month, I've had to cut out a lot of the times where I'm explaining different things. So if you're interested in seeing that, this is available in a weekly format, which just gives more detail and shows more of the process, and that's just available on my Patreon. So I'll let you get on with the rest of the video now. Hello and welcome to another devlog. This week my goal is primarily to see if I can get the walls connecting the tiles working. But before I do that, I have a few little things I want to do. The first of which is I want to be able to adjust some of the settings whilst I'm in play mode, because it's a bit annoying having to keep coming and changing them manually. Now upon playing, set the tile index to 2 and the depth to 1. And the depth works. The tile index does not. Oh, I know what it was. It's because it's a less than, so I don't need to subtract the 1. I just quickly went in and got rid of that. Now, when we come in here, let's set the type to 2, depth to 1, set it to box. There we go. Nice and easy now. There is a slight issue that I'm getting, is that if I'm hovering over the UI, it then still places, if I click there, places a tile behind. So that will need fixing. But now it's much easier, and I can have the game full screen while I'm testing, which should be better to see. The next thing I want to do is fix that issue with the depth overlay. So if we come back and we make a bunch of this too deep, you can see the overlay works here, but it doesn't work here. It works by rendering the pixels from an image where it's intersecting. So all we need to do, change the scale, move it down a bunch. There you go. They're both now working. How do I want to fix this? I don't think I do. No, I do. I need to fix this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to quickly look up to see if there's a quick way to do this. Okay, so I've finally come up with a solution. That was a lot more trouble than I thought it would be. And the solution's not the best. In the end, what I ended up doing is I made a new C# script. And what this script does is it uses the pointer data, and this has to be on all the UI elements that I want to obstruct the clicking. And when you enter, it adds a number to the count of UIs, and then it updates a function, and on the exit it does the opposite. You can see if I change these, I can place here, then if I hover over here, you can see it's not placing any tiles. And I'm free to change these values without it affecting that. Right, now that that ordeal is out of the way, we can start on the actual job, which is connecting different height tiles. Okay, so all the scripts reloaded, and I didn't actually get any errors. Let's see if it plays. Yep, okay, so that works. Now, if we set that, let's see, does this crash immediately? Yes, it does. Okay, so what do we get? Oh, I think I know what happened. I didn't make any of the wall objects. Okay, attempt 2. I have now made a prefab and assigned that. Nope, I haven't assigned that. I've now assigned that, so let's see what errors we get this time. Oh, yep, there's one already. Okay, that issue's now fixed. Basically, I'm using a multi-dimensional array for the walls, and I was getting the length of the whole thing rather than just one of the dimensions. So let's see what errors we get this time. Oh. Right, let's give this another shot. Yep, that works. Ooh. Well, I just paused and played the game again, and it worked that time. So evidently that's an edge case that I'll have to see. That may be because when I was placing it over here, they were placing next to each other, and that may be where the error comes from. Aha, I found the culprit. So I have this flag for the mouse over UI, and our UI count is at -1 somehow. Okay, here we go. I think I've fixed both those issues now. Yes, we play. So the UI issue, basically I think that's an update order issue. So if you moved over too many too quickly, then it wouldn't update properly. So instead now when you enter the UI, it sets that you're over the UI as true, and when you leave it sets as false, rather than trying to keep the number total. So that's less performance. So I think hopefully that shouldn't cause any issues anymore. Now let's see if my fix worked. Okay, that still works. Right, now if we place one next to this. Yes, that worked. That worked. That worked. That worked. What about if we place one in the middle? Yep, that works. Right, okay. Single depth works. Changing to 2. Also works. Now, if we go back to 1, I'm not doing the box selection at the moment because I just want to check the single placement works. Now if we place all of these and then go to 2, that works. Now the issue here is that basically the floor model I'm using is a prefab that has a depth. So because those are on the same coordinate, they're fighting, but that's a modeling issue, not a code issue. Does that work? Yep, that works. 3 deep. Yes, okay. I believe that this system is working now. Just for sanity's sake, we'll check both of these. Yep, 4 works. And 5 works. What happens if we go back the other way? I want to set this to 1 deep. Aha! There we go. Right, now if we go back to depth of 1. Now, works. Does it work at 0? Yes. Yes, it does. Although I should technically do that, shouldn't I? Now what happens if we go to box select? Wow. Okay, that worked. That's surprising. Okay, I have implemented a mana system. Very basic. Just replace the tile, reduces the mana. I change the depth, changes it by different amounts. And this is sort of temporary because I'm not sure how I want to do this. Because the way I'm doing it at the moment is if I go into floor here, I've got a cost for the floor tile. And then in the wall, I have a cost for the wall and a multiply for the depth. So I thought some objects I might want to make it so the deeper you get, it's exponentially more expensive. I don't really know why I'd want that, but there we go. That's what it is. I actually had to rework the floor system a little bit to get this. It's now using the same type of system as the wall, where you make a proper prefab for it and give it some information. And this probably makes more sense to do. Hello, and welcome to another week of development on my game. Now, since the last episode, I did a little bit of refactoring, removed some old test things I had in place. It's still a bit messy. Some of these can be hidden, some could be rearranged and things. But I had a thought about what I want to do, and I've decided that the first thing I'm going to do is I want to finish implementing the walls and everything properly. Because at the moment, it's in there, it works, it does what I want it to. But it's not finished. So if I come over to Blender, I've made some examples. Now these two on the left show what we've got at the moment. So you have the floor tile, you have a wall, and then that's what it looks like at the top. Now this works fine when you have a flat tile. There's no detail in there. But if I do end up having depth to a texture because I want to have a groove or some other details in it, which I might conceivably want to do, then it has this annoying problem of the Z fighting. Now, there are quite a few ways I could deal with this. One of them is this, where everything has a 45-degree cut to it. So then when they intersect, they're fine, it works okay. Another option is to have a lip here at the top, and then have a lip at the bottom. Now, I'd like this one the best, but this does actually have an issue. If we grab this, the problem we run into, or one of the problems, is I'd have to have lots of different variations. Because when these intersect, you need it to be at 45-degree angles again, so it doesn't intersect. But then the issue you have is if you don't have a wall here, then it's not long enough, so there's a gap in the tile. That's why I showed this, because that's what would happen. So yeah, that's why this one works better than that one. Because this one you have to have so many variants, because every wall would essentially have to be this width cut out on either side, and then we'd have to spawn columns for the corners, which I'm not a fan of doing. So this is definitely preferable. But I think my favourite one at the moment is this one. And the reason I quite like this one is because it gives me a little bit of edge texture here that I can work with. So the wall and floor are better connected. Okay, I've made a few assets. This blank floor that will be like the top of the dungeon, just a stone tile, and then I have a testing version which just has the directional arrow so I can see where everything is. And then with the walls, I have just the stone wall at different heights. And then I have a testing version of that. Okay, just says the height. So the way I'm doing this is I'm into textures. Basically, I have one texture and the UVs of the model. Just use this and add progressively more in. Now that may cause some issues with adjacent tiling, because if I have a 1 tool that's next to the 3, it might not tessellate, which would mean the texture has to tessellate with all of them, which is a bit annoying. I have added a create dungeon button so I can choose when I actually spawn it. That's good. So let's try setting the floor type. Now this is technically floor type 1 because I set the 0 one to the debug entity. If I do this, oh, I've crashed. Okay, I believe I have fixed that issue. What was happening is that when you place the tile, it deletes the existing one, and that was causing an issue with updating the cursor position. It's still not fully fixed because, as you can see, when I click, it blinks. I can fix that. I just had to do a check to make sure that the entity existed. And as you can see, there is an issue with the... I was trying to have these top ones just be completely plain. The problem is that then leaves a gap. So don't really know what to do there. If I do change the depth to 0 and place that, there's still a gap, so apparently my math was off. Let's try the proper one. So floor type 2. Is that the right one? Yep. Okay, so let's place some stone tiles. Ooh. Something's going on there. I'll have to investigate that. And then if we change the depth, wall type. Yeah, okay, so apparently my calculation's off. I'm going to make a little slider for the floor depth rather than this value input. Because that's what I think is the best option. And the second thing I'm going to do, I'll do it at the same time, because it shouldn't take long, is I'm going to add a button for selecting delete tiles. Okay, I now have those two features implemented. The first one, if we just choose a type, we can then drag this depth, and it's only updating here. I'll have some better indicator later. But, oh, hang on. Let's change that back to, got to make the dungeon. And we can make new things. I forgot to update those. We come up here, change depth. There we go. And then if we click on this X, it's quite hard to see. It turns on delete mode, and that just deletes it. So the issue I've got at the moment is choosing which wall type to use. Because as you can see, it's a good example. Let's change the wall type. Okay, so if I change one of these, that works fine. But then if I change the wall type and set the depth, it changes those. Okay, I knew that would take a bit of effort, but it took quite a considerable amount more than I expected. But now, if we want to, we can place a tile. And as you can see, we've gone down to 1 mana. If we now try and place a tile, it won't let us. And on top of that, if I just come out of here, I can turn ignore mana on, so I can just place as many tiles as I want. See, now you'll notice I still haven't fixed the gap, and that is because I've actually been focused on something else. I've, in fact, rewritten the entire system for the walls. So if we change to a different tile type now, and then if we change the depth, you can see it uses a different type. So that's all I'm going to do this video because that took a long time to explain and to do. So I think that's a good stopping spot. We've got a more robust system. It's not going to be as performant because obviously we're spawning more entities. But I could also theoretically fix that by changing the index values to -3 or something that says it's connected to another wall, and then we could do the spawn one tile thing again if we need to. For the time being, I'm going to keep it like this. That also gives the user a lot more freedom when changing wall tiles. I think it's more intuitive that way. So then what I'll do, I'll probably do this between videos. I might record it, I might not. I'll just go through and fix some of the stuff that's probably broken and get rid of the old system now that this one's working. And then we'll have to have a think, because another reason that I realized that I needed to rework the system is because at some point I'll want stairs and slopes, which mean that one side will want walls. So we'll see how that goes in the future. Hello, and welcome to another week of development. And to start things off, in between this video and the last, I got box selection implemented with the new system. Ta-da! Everything's working there. Now, I think I'm gonna do. I've done it the last 2 weeks, and I think I'm gonna do it again. Is I'm gonna start off with doing something small, but that's a good quality of life improvement. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to add an indicator by the mouse that says what the current cost is to make it easier to tell whether or not the user can place a tile. Okay, so I have implemented those, but this video is probably going to be a bit shorter than the previous weeks because, as you will have seen from my asset development video, I once again decided to change the way things worked, and I decided I wanted to make the walls work like they were supposed to in the original video where I talked about it and showed it with the walls having a bit on top. So that's now how it works, but as you can see, there's still some fine tuning that needs to happen. The main issue at the moment, the two are, one is, well, as you can tell, the floor cost isn't working properly. We've got the tracking working right, but doesn't seem to be subtracting. Yeah, it's not actually subtracting the cost, so that's broken. But with the tiles, the wall tile, it's not choosing the correct model here, and I think that is to do with the same issue with the costs being calculated. And then the corner issue, that's because I'm only updating the adjacent tiles here. So I need to include the corner tiles, but before I do that, I want to sort out the other issues first. But I do think it was the right decision to do it this way, because I think it looks better already, even though it's not working, and the assets still need some work. I think there's another issue. Walls being chosen wrong. But yeah, oh, the slider does also work. Yeah. that. Yep, and we're even getting the wrong type of tiles selected. So, lots of issues, just trying to track them down, going through. It's not particularly interesting to watch, especially when I don't know where the issue is. Okay, I have made up my mind, and this week is going to be the last week that we work on creating walls, because I really need to move on and start making parts of the actual game. So the first thing I'm going to do is just to help with everything, and I'll probably need it later anyway. I'm going to make a debug tool that I can input a certain tile I want and get all the data from it. Because I've been making just debug.logs everywhere, trying to track things down. It'll be much better if I can just have a window that I can input and say, oh, what are the data values here, just to check that everything's lining up there, and I can see where these things are cropping up from. So yeah, I'm going to do that. Okay, so I've made this little window here, and if I make the dungeon, I can pick a coordinate. So let's pick this one. That's 0, 1, 2, 0, 1, 2. So if I put the X in there, Y in there, and get the data, that tells me all the wall values at the moment, because that's all I'm worried about. I'll continue to add data into this. The floor data I'll put in, and I might add some other stuff in, but we'll see. But if I check this and do live update, and then if we change that tile, so that's this one, if we change that, yep, there we go, that updated it. So they're all at wall index 0. If we change the one in front, that'll change the north one back to -1. We can do the same with the east, the west, and the south. Okay, I have gotten everything working to a decent level now. So if we place the walls, they tessellate, lots of different shapes. If we crash by clicking the wrong thing, because that doesn't work. As I was saying, if we don't actually click on the wrong thing, and we play around, the walls have a top value now. Everything tessellates, and I'm glad that I did go through with this. There are still edge cases that I need to work out, because I put everything in one go, and then I've just been finding the places I made mistakes. Yeah, I'm going to leave the walls and floor systems where they are at the moment. There's definitely stuff to do apart from fixing. Like, I'd like to have it so you can have overhangs somehow, but that's definitely a lot of work. And I'll need to make more types of tiles, because I've only got these two working. These is one type that I've split it into two types, where we have a tessellating type, which is these ones. So you can see there's only a border around the edge, and then if it goes shallower, it creates a border there. So that's those. And then the second type is non-tessellating, so that's these. So it only cares how many walls are adjacent to it, and it doesn't need to do these edge borders. But what that means is that the floor, which was originally one tile, then when I started the system, it moved to 6, as I showed in my asset development video. Now, the non-tessellating version, that has to have 15 separate models, all the different cases where the walls are attached, and then the corners are gone, and some walls are there, some are not. And then the tessellating version has to have 72 different models to cover all the variations. And obviously there would be there are loads of ways that could be optimized, such as doing it, splitting it into quadrants, and then having some variations and just spawning the correct quadrant. But I don't really want to get into messing around with different meshes and things. But the last thing I want to do with this system for this session, and then next month we can start implementing actual game features, hopefully. Well, this is a feature, but it's not a lot to go on for a game, is it? So next month I'll be doing more interesting stuff. An asterisk on that, because probably not. But I want to add an actual UI for selecting the type. Alright then, I have implemented all those things that I wanted to. I'm not entirely sure this will stay as it is, because it will probably interfere with different features. At the moment, I've got these buttons at the bottom that you can use to select drawn wall type. I haven't made an icon for the wall yet because I need to retexture it. As you might have seen, that then updates these icons. These tell you your currently selected type. And then we're still at the depth slider. I've added a number on it so you can see what depth you're on. So that's fine. And then this last button here, you click that, changes the selection mode. But I think that's going to be where we end. Oh, no, hang on. The delete mode also works again. So yeah. But that's the last thing I'm going to do this week, because unfortunately I was finishing up the wall system, so that still took up a good chunk of the week. But next month we get to start doing different things and not spending hours upon hours working on this system again. Oh, I found another edge case. Yay, another thing to fix. But I'll still be thinking about what I'm doing next week. There are a few major things that need doing. The first one, I think I'm going to make a rudimentary save system, because that makes testing quite a lot easier. If I can save and load and refresh, that'll make other things easier. Then the other major thing that needs to be implemented, although I'm not sure when I'm going to start this, is obviously spawning the non-player entities. Well, there's no player entity, but spawning the entities and giving them pathfinding and things. So I may start that next time if everything goes well. But yeah, I'm reasonably happy with how this month's gone in terms of progress. Obviously, I could have got a lot more done if I didn't spend so much time working on this floor system, but now it's done. It gives me a lot of things to work with design-wise, because I think this just looks so much nicer in total. And then I don't necessarily have to make new models, so I can use these models again, but duplicate it and set the materials to different things, and that gives me a new look, and I don't have to remodel everything necessarily. So I'm glad I've done that. But that's going to be it for this month. So thank you very much for watching, and I will see you, if you're a patron, I'll see you on Tuesday for the next asset development, and Saturday for the weekly progress update. If you're just a YouTube viewer, the next asset development will be on Wednesday, and the next devlog will be a month from the 15th, which is when this video is up. I have the date written down, but I, for some reason, didn't have it in front of me. So, yep. But thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.